You've got dreams, don't you? Big ones. The kind that make your heart race and your palms sweat. But here's the thing. Dreams without action are just wishful thinking. And action without consistency, that's like trying to build a house with a handful of nails and no hammer. You might get started, but you won't get far. So let's talk about consistency. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, but it's the secret weapon of every successful person you've ever admired. It's the difference between saying, I want to and I did. Think about it. The greatest athletes in the world didn't get there by practicing once in a while when they felt like it. They showed up every single day, rain or shine, whether they felt motivated or not. The most brilliant scientists didn't make groundbreaking discoveries by working on their research whenever the mood struck. They put in the hours, day after day, year after year. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Denzel, I'm not an athlete or a scientist. I'm just trying to get by. Let me tell you something. Consistency isn't just for the extraordinary. It's for everyone who wants to make their life a little better, day by day. Maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you just want to be a better parent or friend. Whatever it is, consistency is your ticket to getting there. But here's the catch. Consistency isn't easy. If it were, everyone would be living their dream life. No, consistency is hard. It's showing up when you don't feel like it. It's doing the work when no one's watching. It's pushing through when everything in you wants to quit. That's why I'm telling you to force yourself to be consistent. Because some days that's what it takes. Some days you've got to be your own drill sergeant, your own coach, your own biggest fan. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I don't care if I'm tired. I don't care if I'm discouraged. I made a commitment to myself, and I'm going to keep it. Now, I'm not saying you've got to be perfect. We're human. We all have bad days. We all slip up sometimes. But the key is to get back on track as quickly as possible. Don't let one missed day turn into 2, then 3, then a week. Remember, consistency isn't about never falling down. It's about always getting back up. And here's the beautiful thing about consistency. It compounds. Those small daily actions, they add up. They build on each other. It's like putting a single brick in place every day. At first, it might not look like much, but before you know it, you built a wall. Then a house, then a whole damn city. That's the power of consistency. It turns the impossible into the inevitable. But I get it. Sometimes the task ahead seems so big, so overwhelming, that you don't even know where to start. So let me give you a piece of advice. Start small. Don't try to change your whole life overnight. Pick one thing, one small, manageable thing that you can do every day. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes. Maybe it's doing 10 push-ups. Maybe it's making one sales call. Whatever it is, make it so small that you can't talk yourself out of it. Then do it every single day. No excuses, no exceptions. At first, it might not feel like you're making progress, but trust me, you are. You're building a habit. You're proving to yourself that you can be consistent, and that, my friends, is worth its weight in gold. Because once you prove to yourself that you can be consistent in one area, you can be consistent in others. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Motivation for a minute. A lot of people think they need to feel motivated to be consistent. But let me tell you something. Motivation is fickle. It comes and goes like the wind. If you rely on motivation to be consistent, you're setting yourself up for failure. No, what you need is discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. It's showing up even when the motivation tank is empty. And here's the secret. Action often comes before motivation. You start doing the thing, and then the motivation follows. It's like jumping into a cold pool. The hardest part is taking that first step. But once you're in, you adjust, you start swimming. And before you know it, you're enjoying yourself. So don't wait to feel motivated. Just start. Take that first step. Force yourself to be consistent and watch as the motivation starts to flow. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Denzel, I've tried to be consistent before. I always end up quitting. Let me tell you something. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every time you fail and get back up, you're learning, you're growing, you're getting stronger. So if you failed at being consistent before, congratulations. You're one step closer to succeeding. The only real failure is giving up completely. And let's be real, being consistent isn't always fun. Sometimes it's downright boring. But you know what's fun? Success, achieving your goals, living the life you've always dreamed of. That's fun. And consistency is the price you pay to get there. Like this, every time you force yourself to be consistent, you're making a deposit in your future, you're investing in yourself. And let me tell you, there's no better investment than that. Because here's the truth. No one else is going to do it for you. No one's going to show up at your door with your dream life on a silver platter. If you want it, you've got to go out and get it. And consistency is your vehicle to get there. Now, I know some of you are nodding your heads thinking, yeah, Denzel, I hear you, but my life is crazy right now. I don't have time to be consistent. Let me stop you right there. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's not about having time. It's about making time. Look at your day. I guarantee there are pockets of time you're not using effectively. Maybe you're scrolling through social media. Maybe you're binge watching TV shows. I'm not saying you can't enjoy these things, but if you're serious about your goals, you've got to prioritize. Remember, every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. So when you say yes to that extra hour of sleep or that night out with friends, you're saying no to your dreams. Is it worth it? Only you can answer that. But I'll tell you this, the satisfaction of achieving your goals far outweighs any temporary pleasure. So make the time. Wake up an hour earlier if you have to. Use your lunch break, stay up a little later. Find those pockets of time and use them wisely. Force yourself to be consistent even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Because here's the thing, success doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care that you're tired or busy or stressed. It only cares about what you do. And consistency is the bridge between what you do and what you achieve. The voice in your head, you know the one that tells you it's okay to skip just this once. The one that says you can always start tomorrow. That voice is your enemy. It's the resistance that stands between you and your goals. And let me tell you, that voice never goes away. Even the most successful people in the world still hear it. The difference is they've learned to ignore it. They've learned to push through it. So the next time that voice pipes up, telling you it's okay to break your streak, I want you to talk back to it. Tell it, not today. I made a commitment to myself and I'm going to keep it. Because every time you keep that commitment, you're building trust with yourself. And that trust, it's priceless. It's the foundation of self-confidence. It's what allows you to set bigger goals, to take bigger risks, to dream bigger dreams. How many times have you let yourself down? How many New Year's resolutions have fallen by the wayside? How many diets have you started and stopped? Each time you break a promise to yourself, you chip away at that self-trust. But the good news is you can rebuild it. One consistent action at a time, and as that trust grows, so does your belief in yourself. Suddenly those big goals don't seem so impossible. That dream life doesn't seem so out of reach. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. The road to consistency is often lonely. You'll have days where it feels like you're the only one putting in the work. Days where everyone else seems to be having fun while you're grinding. But let me tell you something. Those are the days that define you. Those are the days where champions are made. Because anyone can work hard when they feel like it. Anyone can be consistent when it's easy. It's what you do on the hard days that sets you apart. So embrace the loneliness. Embrace the grind. Know that while others are sleeping, you're working. While others are partying, you're practicing. While others are making excuses, you're making progress. And here's the beautiful thing. Consistency compounds. Those small daily actions, they add up. They build on each other. It's like putting a single brick in place every day. At first, it might not look like much. But before you know it, you've built a wall, then a house, then a whole damn city. That's the power of consistency. It turns the impossible into the inevitable. But here's the catch. You've got to stick with it long enough to see the results. Too many people give up just before their breakthrough. They put in the work for a week, a month, maybe even a few months. And when they don't see immediate results, they quit. Don't be one of those people. Understand that real change takes time. It's not about making a dramatic transformation overnight. It's about making small, consistent progress over time. Like this, if you improve just one every day, in a year you'd be 37 times better. That's the power of consistency. It's not about making huge leaps. It's about taking small steps day after day that add up to massive change. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Denzel, what if I miss a day? What if I slip up? Let me tell you something. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Don't use it as an excuse to quit. Just get back on track as quickly as possible. Remember, it's not about never falling down. It's about always getting back up. And here's a little secret. The most successful people in the world, they're not superhuman. They don't have some special gene that makes consistency easy for them. They struggle with the same things you do. They have the same doubts, the same fears, the same temptations to quit. The difference is they've made a decision to show up day after day, regardless of how they feel, a decision to force themselves to be consistent even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And that's the decision I'm asking you to make today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more motivated or when the timing is better. Because here's the truth. There's never a perfect time to start. There's never going to be a day when all the stars align and consistency becomes easy. The perfect time to start is now. The perfect time to force yourself to be consistent is today. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep waiting for the perfect moment? Or are you going to make this moment perfect by taking action? Are you going to let your dreams remain dreams? Or are you going to turn them into reality through consistent action? Are you going to let that voice in your head hold you back? Are you going to push through the resistance and become the person you know you can be? The choice is yours. But let me tell you something. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sails. Explore. Dream. Discover. And through it all, force yourself to be consistent. Because consistency is the key that unlocks every door. It's the force that turns dreams into reality. It's the difference between who you are and who you want to be. So start today. Start now. Pick one small thing and commit to doing it every single day. Force yourself to be consistent. Push through the resistance. Ignore the voice that tells you to quit. Because here's the truth. You're capable of so much more than you realize. You have greatness within you. But that greatness will never see the light of day without consistency. So let this be the day. The day you decide to stop waiting and start doing. The day you commit to forcing yourself to be consistent no matter what. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's not about making huge leaps. It's about taking small, consistent steps in the right direction. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. And as you do, you'll start to see changes. Small at first, but they'll grow. You'll start to build momentum. You'll start to believe in yourself more. You'll start to see that you're capable of so much more than you ever thought possible. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize that those small, consistent actions have added up to massive change. You'll realize that you've become the person you always knew you could be. But it all starts with a decision to force yourself to be consistent, a decision to push through the hard days, a decision to keep going, no matter what. So what's it going to be? Are you ready to make that decision? Are you ready to commit to consistency? Are you ready to turn your dreams into reality? Because let me tell you something, the world is waiting for you. It's waiting for your gifts, your talents, your unique contribution, but it's not going to come knocking on your door. You've got to go out and get it. And consistency is your vehicle to get there. So stand up, step up, and show up every single day. Force yourself to be consistent because that's where greatness is born. That's where dreams become reality. That's where you become the best version of yourself. And trust me, there's no feeling in the world like knowing you've given it your all, knowing you've pushed through the hard times, knowing you've forced yourself to be consistent when everything in you wanted to quit. That's the feeling of true success. That's the feeling of living up to your potential. That's the feeling I want for each and every one of you. So go out there and be consistent. Force yourself if you have to. But whatever you do, don't give up. Don't quit. Keep pushing, keep grinding, keep showing up because your future self is watching. And they're counting on you to be consistent today. They're counting on you to lay the foundation for the life they're going to live. Don't let them down. Don't let yourself down. Be consistent. Be persistent. Be unstoppable. Remember, success is not a destination. It's a journey of consistent daily actions, a journey of forcing yourself to show up even when you don't feel like it, a journey of becoming the best version of yourself one day at a time. And that journey starts now. It starts today. It starts with your next action. So what's it going to be? Are you ready to force yourself to be consistent? Are you ready to turn your dreams into reality? Are you ready to become the person you know you can be? The choice is yours. But I believe in you. I know you have greatness within you. And I know that with consistency, there's nothing you can't achieve. So go out there and make it happen. Force yourself to be consistent and watch as your life transforms before your very eyes. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about showing up day after day and giving it your all. So let's do this. Let's commit to consistency. Let's commit to forcing ourselves to show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's where greatness is born. That's where dreams become reality. That's where you become the best version of yourself. And trust me, there's no feeling in the world like knowing you've given it your all, knowing you've pushed through the hard times, knowing you've forced yourself to be consistent when everything in you wanted to quit. That's the feeling of true success. That's the feeling of living up to your potential. That's the feeling I want for each and every one of you. So go out there and be consistent. Force yourself if you have to, but whatever you do, don't give up. Don't quit. Keep pushing, keep grinding, keep showing up, because your future self is watching, and they're counting on you to be consistent today. They're counting on you to be consistent today. They're waiting for you to step up and make the choices that will shape their reality. Your future self is cheering you on, urging you to push through the tough times, to stay the course when it would be easier to give up. Take that for a moment. Every time you force yourself to be consistent, you're not just doing it for yourself right now. You're doing it for the person you'll become. You're building a bridge to a better future, one consistent action at a time. And let me tell you, there's power in that. There's power in knowing that your actions today are shaping your tomorrow. It's like planting seeds. You might not see the results right away, but trust me, those seeds are growing. And one day, you'll look up and see a forest where once there was just bare ground. That's what consistency does. It turns small actions into big results. It turns dreams into reality. It turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. But here's the thing. It's not always going to feel good. There will be days when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when you feel like you're not making any progress. Those are the days that matter most. Those are the days when forcing yourself to be consistent really counts. Because let me tell you something. Success isn't about feeling good all the time. It's about doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. It's about pushing through the discomfort, pushing through the doubt, pushing through the fear. And every time you do that, every time you force yourself to be consistent, when everything in you wants to quit, you're building something. You're building strength. You're building resilience. You're building the kind of character that can weather any storm. The people you admire most, the ones who've achieved great things. I guarantee you, they didn't get there by only showing up on the good days. They got there by being consistent, day in and day out, no matter what life threw at them. That's the kind of consistency I'm talking about. The kind that doesn't make excuses. The kind that doesn't take days off. The kind that keeps pushing forward, even when the path is hard and the destination seems far away. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but Denzel, I've tried to be consistent before. I always end up falling off track. Let me tell you something. Falling off track is part of the journey. It's not about never falling. It's about always getting back up. If you miss a day, don't let it turn into 2. If you miss a week, don't let it turn into a month. The moment you realize you've fallen off track, that's the moment to get back on. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because here's the truth. The only way to fail at consistency is to stop trying. As long as you keep getting back up, as long as you keep forcing yourself to show up, you're winning. You're building that consistency muscle. You're proving to yourself that you can do it. And let me tell you, that proof is powerful. It's the kind of thing that can change your whole life. Because once you prove to yourself that you can be consistent in one area, you start to believe you can be consistent in others. It's like a domino effect of success, but it all starts with that decision. The decision to force yourself to be consistent. The decision to show up even when you don't feel like it. The decision to keep going even when the results aren't immediate. And that's a decision you've got to make every single day. It's not a one-time thing. It's a constant choice. A choice to prioritize your long-term goals over short-term comfort. A choice to be the person you want to be, not just the person you are right now. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Forcing yourself to be consistent is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But I promise you, it's also one of the most rewarding. Because what happens when you force yourself to be consistent? You start to change. Not just your actions, but your whole mindset. You start to see yourself differently. You start to believe in yourself more. You start to realize that you're capable of so much more than you ever thought possible. And that belief, that's pure gold. Because when you believe in yourself, when you know deep in your bones that you can be consistent, that you can achieve your goals, that's when the real magic happens. That's when you start to attract opportunities. That's when you start to inspire others. That's when you start to create the life you've always dreamed of. But it all starts with consistency. It all starts with that daily decision to show up, to do the work, to force yourself to keep going even when it's hard. And let me tell you, there's going to be resistance. There's going to be that voice in your head telling you it's okay to skip just this once. There's going to be people around you who don't understand why you're pushing yourself so hard. There's going to be setbacks and obstacles and days when it feels like you're not making any progress at all. But that's when you've got to dig deep. That's when you've got to remember why you started. That's when you've got to force yourself to be consistent, even when every fiber of your being is telling you to quit. Because here's the truth. The person you become through that struggle, through that consistency, is far more valuable than any goal you might achieve. The strength you build, the resilience you develop, the character you forge, that's the real prize. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like the feeling of looking back and seeing how far you've come, seeing how those small, consistent actions have added up to massive change, seeing how you've become the person you always knew you could be. But you can't get there without consistency. You can't get there without forcing yourself to show up day after day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So I'm asking you, are you ready to make that commitment? Are you ready to force yourself to be consistent? Are you ready to become the person you know you can be? Because the truth is, you've got greatness inside you. You've got dreams and goals and aspirations that are just waiting to be realized. But they're not going to realize themselves. You've got to put in the work. You've got to be consistent. You've got to force yourself to keep going, even when it feels like you're not making progress. And let me tell you, there are going to be days when it feels like that. Days when you're putting in the work but not seeing the results. That's when you've got to trust the process. That's when you've got to have faith in your consistency. Because success isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Sometimes it's a long plateau before a sudden breakthrough. But as long as you're being consistent, as long as you're forcing yourself to show up and do the work, you're moving in the right direction. And that's what matters. Not the speed of your progress, but the consistency of your effort. Not how big your steps are, but how steadily you're taking them. So don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate results. Don't let yourself be swayed by temporary setbacks or momentary doubts. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep forcing yourself to be consistent. Keep showing up day after day and doing what needs to be done, because that's how champions are made. That's how dreams become reality. That's how ordinary people achieve extraordinary things. And make no mistake, you are capable of extraordinary things. You have potential within you that you haven't even begun to tap into. But the only way to unlock that potential is through consistency, through forcing yourself to keep pushing, keep growing, keep striving for more. So I want you to make a commitment to yourself right now. Commitment to consistency. A commitment to forcing yourself to show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because that's where the real growth happens. That's where you discover what you're truly capable of. That's where you become the person you were always meant to be. And let me tell you, that person is amazing. That person is strong. That person is capable of achieving anything they set their mind to. But that person can only emerge through consistency, through the daily decision to force yourself to keep going no matter what. So don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for someone else to push you. Take control of your life right now. Force yourself to be consistent. Force yourself to show up. Force yourself to become the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. It's about living up to your potential. It's about making the most of the gifts you've been given. And you can do that. I know you can. But it's going to take consistency. It's going to take forcing yourself to keep going, even when it's hard. It's going to take a daily commitment to excellence, to growth, to becoming the person you know you can be. But I promise you, it's worth it. The person you'll become through that consistency, through that daily commitment to excellence, that person is unstoppable. That person is capable of achieving anything they set their mind to. That person is the real you waiting to emerge. So let's make it happen. Let's commit to consistency. Let's commit to forcing ourselves to show up day after day, no matter what. Let's commit to becoming the best versions of ourselves. Because the world needs that version of you. The world needs your gifts, your talents, your unique contribution. But it's up to you to develop those gifts, to hone those talents, to make that contribution. And the only way to do that is through consistency. So don't let yourself down. Don't let your future self down. Force yourself to be consistent. Force yourself to keep pushing, keep growing, keep striving for more, because that's how you create a life you can be proud of. That's how you achieve your dreams. That's how you make your mark on the world. And trust me, you've got it in you. You've got the strength, the resilience, the determination to be consistent. You've got what it takes to force yourself to keep going, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So let's do this. Let's commit to consistency. Let's commit to excellence. Let's commit to becoming the best versions of ourselves, because that's what the world needs. That's what you deserve. And that's what you're capable of achieving. Remember, your future self is watching. They're counting on you to be consistent today. They're counting on you to force yourself to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep striving for more. Don't let them down. Don't let yourself down. Be consistent. Be persistent. Be unstoppable, because that's who you are. That's who you were always meant to be. And with consistency, with that daily commitment to forcing yourself to show up and do the work, that's who you will become. So go out there and make it happen. Force yourself to be consistent, and watch as your life transforms before your very eyes, because it will. I promise you it will. All it takes is consistency. All it takes is you showing up day after day, forcing yourself to keep going no matter what. You've got this. I believe in you. Now it's time for you to believe in yourself. It's time for you to commit to consistency. It's time for you to become the person you were always meant to be. So let's do this. Let's be consistent. Let's be excellent. Let's be unstoppable, because that's who you are. That's who you were always meant to be. And with consistency, that's who you will become.